Hey, Todd Barton here from the Barton Group at Signature Real Estate. I sit here today with some of the top producing real estate agents in our company and also one of the top producing mortgage brokers here in the Valley. And today we're going to talk about maybe what our predictions are for 2023, where we think the market's going to go, what we think the interest rate might do. We're going to talk a little bit about what you can expect from our perspective on the housing market for 2023. Because I think we can all probably admit 2022 may not have ended the way we thought it was going to, right?
Right,
Yep.
agree.
Yeah. So hey, Nicole, so tell us a bit about you. Like, how long have you been in the business? Why did you get in this business? How did your 2022 year go? Tell us about it.
Well, I got my license in 2014.
14, so do the math.
2014.
That's, okay.
Yeah.
You guys can do the math.
Yeah. I came from a family of real estate developers, and it honestly wasn't my intention really to ever get into real estate sales, but I had sold some houses for sale by owner, and then we did a flip, and my brother and my husband had both encouraged me to get my license, and I thought, okay, I'll do that to find some more properties to flip. And once I got into actually doing real estate, I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the process of understanding the market, understanding how it feels to help people navigate the process, and so it kind of took off. So that's what got me into it. And yeah, 2022 was high and low.
So tell me, you said that you like helping people navigate the process, right? And when you came into real estate, did you realize that there was such a process involved, or what?
Oh, no,
what
I had no idea that there was a process. I mean, my interpretation of realtors prior to becoming a realtor was very stereotypical. And I had very little respect for realtors prior to becoming a realtor. And understanding everything that's involved now, I think that that's what happens most of the time when you really get involved with something. You understand how much more there is to it.
Yeah,
And
we hear that a lot.
Yeah.
As realtors, oh, you guys don't do anything. You get paid too much money, all that good stuff. And I think there's always one statistic that I always go to when people say that to me, and I think it's very telling. The turnover rate in real estate is well over 80%. So 80% of the people that go get a real estate license, they don't come back the second year, because we are doing a few more things than just sitting at the desk with our feet up drinking coffee. We're doing a
Right.
few other things. And so
Right.
it is a process. So I appreciate you saying that, because I think most people don't believe that there's really a process. And you are able to get from one end to the other end with the help of a real estate agent kind of getting you through that process. So I appreciate you saying that.
Sure.
So we don't open up 3 doors and they pick one.
I'm not saying that hasn't happened before. I mean, let's admit, right? In 2022, there was a time when, we didn't open any doors,
Right.
right? Things were just selling. But we can also talk about the end of 2022, and as we get into 23, we can talk about 07, 08, 09, 10, 11, 12. Right? I mean, it was almost impossible to sell a house in 09.
Yeah.
Because the economy was what it was, people's perception of the market was what it was, and so yeah, it changes, right? It's up and it's down, it's up and it's down. So yeah, sometimes we only have to open 3. I have a listing right now. Honestly, I have a listing right now that we get on average 4 showings a day.
Wow.
Every day, 7 days a week for the last 60 days.
Wow.
We've only gotten 1 offer.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so there was a time last year when you didn't get any showings, and you got 4 offers the first day. So it's just virtually exactly the opposite. So that is one of our challenges. We get to go up and down with that whole thing. So hey, so let me just go to Brandon real quick. So tell us a bit about you and why and when, and tell us a little bit about your career.
So I was actually licensed in 2014 as well. So the math I did today, it's 9 years.
9 years.
So
Saved a lot of people a lot of headache right there.
and save the math.
Yeah.
I've been in it for 9 years. Started my own team. Became a top producer in the company. I I actually, my background getting into, I had no real estate background whatsoever. I was actually kind of in customer service. I was a bartender. I went to school for automotive engineering, wanted to start opening my own business. 08 happened.
Here
So,
you are.
didn't get into that, but I had a knack for sales. So that's how I ended up, getting into real estate. And same thing. It's very rewarding to be able to get someone from, A, B, all the way to Z and get them into that house. So, yeah.
Cool. So 9 years, both of you. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you guys were the same.
Yeah.
Cool. So let me just, I guess I should say I got into real estate in 2005. You guys can do that math, right? That's 17 or 18 years now, right? So I've been doing this a little while. Interesting. I came from the automotive industry as well. Before I was in real estate, I actually was a webmaster. I created and developed websites and sold golf equipment. I actually got into real estate by accident. Never was my intention. I got into real estate because I bought a house and my perception was that my agent did a horrible job. And she was a family friend and I wanted to buy more property back then. So I decided I would just get my license and kind of do it on the side. And here we are 17 years later, not doing it on the side.
It's not as easy as she made it look, right?
No, she actually didn't do a bad job. Now that I know what I know, right?
Yeah.
So I think we all have that outside perspective sometimes. So Shelly, you're our resident top producing mortgage broker. Have you ever had a real estate license?
I've never had a real estate license. I don't know that I could ever go down that path, knowing what you all go through. I think
Really?
I have the easier side of the job.
All right,
Yeah.
well, tell us about
I
it.
just say that amongst 3 realtors, actually. So I've been in the business for, I started in 1998, so you do the math. I did it just 10 minutes ago, so 24 years. I guess I would be the resident by,
So
I'm the OG of the group.
so you literally started when you were 12?
They were starting to give out licenses around that time out of middle school.
Yeah.
I wish. So I got into the business because of my uncle. So I was in Reno, really trying to soul search and figure out what I needed to do with my life. And he was a branch manager in Southern California. So I called him up one night and said, I don't know what I'm doing in my life. I'm sitting here, college, trying to figure this out. And he had said, come join me in Southern California. The mortgage industry is the easiest job to make 6 figures, the hardest job to make $30,000, which the time I was like a new accounts teller in the bank, barely making $20,000. So I was like, okay, that sounds like a great idea. So I really got into the business because of money, like thinking that this is going to be something that I can learn, I can make $30,000 and I'll be out. I've never looked back. It was money, but it's because of all the families we've been able to help and serve. And I went down the path of leadership more. I went into like managing a team. I got all the way up to managing a company and came back down, realizing that I wanted to originate again and be back in the front line, so to speak, and kind of started over back in 2015 and then established another team and the rest is history. Now we're here at Prosperity Lending. Yeah.
So you've just gone back up because now you own a company.
Yes. Yeah. In a different way, right? Because now I can make the decisions totally different than when you have to make the decisions you have to be told what decisions to be made. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So 24 years.
24.
9, 17. So there's some time sitting here. We've been doing this a while.
Yeah.
Here's a good question I get all the time. Should I buy? I literally had a conversation with a client yesterday for 30 minutes. They're thinking of buying a property for their daughter, and they want to know if it's the right time to buy it. So Brandon, tell me, is it the right time to buy it? What do you predict? What do you think?
Absolutely. I take it to, stock investing as well. People say, hey, when was the best time to buy an Apple stock? Today, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it's when you could get in. So if you can get into real estate now, it's the best time to get into real estate. Most times you're going to pay rent anyways.
Yeah.
People go back to interest rates, right? Well, you're paying 100% interest when you're renting. So why not pay that higher interest rate now and wait for the market to come, back around and refi down the road. You have the asset, and that's important.
Yeah, you have an asset that will appreciate.
Correct.
Yeah, because I think in housing, I think that's what people don't really understand is, I still believe people are afraid of the 07, 08 problem that we had.
Oh, yeah.
Which, by the way, that's the first time that's ever happened in Las Vegas. It's happened in California several times, but in Vegas, we've never really seen that kind of crash before. And so I still think people are a little hesitant. But the bottom line is, you're right. The best time to get in is when you can.
Yeah.
And you'll figure it out from there. What's the thing you always say? Date the rate or
Date the rate, marry the house.
marry the house,
Yeah.
date the rate. Yeah, because
Yeah,
you can't change your house, but you
Right.
could change your
fall in love
interest
with
rate.
that home. Yeah. And speaking to that question, I wish my parents had done that, bought me a home when when I was of the age to do it. My daughter's 18, and we're setting her up for that, because I truly believe real estate is one of the best ways to build wealth. And I wish they had done that at whatever age that would be, to purchased a home not for me, well, I guess for me, but taught me that would be one of the best things to do, because I didn't buy a home until I was 20, almost 30.
30.
Yeah.
So
See-
Nicole, when did you buy your first house?
Well, my husband bought his first house, I guess at 26 or so, and I lived with him. So I would say, I picked the house, so it was mine.
And still
Let's say
is.
that. So yeah, so probably around 26.
26
yeah, around that age. Yeah.
Brandon, when you
I can't do the math, but I bought it in 2010, 2009. So I would say I was probably,
you're revealing your age right
I
now.
know,
Be
I would
careful.
say I was in my early 20s. So but actually that's what kind of sparked my interest to get into real estate. Is I saw my investment. I actually wanted to buy a house. And and that was right after the crash, where everybody was still kind of afraid to go out and, was a little, gun shy to go out and get out there and buy a home. But I bought it. I saw it as an opportunity, and I still own that house to this day.
Yeah.
Rent it out. And now it makes me money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's cool. So my client specifically, I should clarify in case they see this, they're not buying it for her. She has her own money, but they're helping her because she's quite young. And they did the same thing with their other daughter 2 years ago, and they bought a house for the exact same price that they're buying a house today, but $330,000 2 years ago at 3% interest got them this payment, and now it's $331,000 this year at 5% interest, and it's getting them a whole nother payment. And they really have a hard time wrapping their head around that, because they can't believe that a 2 or 2.5% interest rate difference really makes that big of a payment difference.
Right. And I'd like to add, my first house, which was a great rate at the time, was 5.5%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I'll say, and I'm not the mortgage expert, but I think I'll tell you that I think if you can get a mortgage that's around 5.5%, over time, that's really a good interest rate. That's not a bad interest rate. 2.5%, 3%, 4% was just
Crazy.
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 Once in a
good.
lifetime, I think.
Yeah.
I firmly believe we will not see that in my lifetime again. We won't see the 3%, the 2.5s.
Yeah.
But the 5.5 and the 6.5, that's what I started off with. Sounds like you started off in that interest rate as well. So
Yeah, I think that's really the norm.
Yeah.
So good. So Shelly, tell us, you have something?
Oh no, I was going to say, one of the best things, speaking of younger buyers and starting that whole home purchase and starting the wealth train, helping. I have a buyer that was 20, purchase a house, and he was in the military, and teaching him how to write a check for his down payment, was just the most fun thing to do, because his very first check as a down payment for his very first house is the greatest feeling, I think. To starting that path at such a young age is just so cool.
Yeah, I will tell you that in this industry, and this really isn't about predicting 2023, but in this industry, there is a very high level of satisfaction when you help other people do things that most people don't think are possible.
Yeah.
Like, I get a lot of enjoyment out of overcoming the challenges that come up in a real estate transaction where everyone just goes, there's no way this is going to happen. This is over. I can't do it. It's done. And then I get to jump in and go, we'll do this, this, and this, and that fixes everything, and everyone's good, and it gets closed. So there is a really high level of that in the real estate industry and the mortgage, as you pointed out.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we have been known as the quicker picker-upper, or, you know, with a lot of the builder accounts that we have, we get the second look at it because we firefight. That's really, you know, and I tell everybody, I'm like, I'm not a professional, I'm just a firefighter, but that's really what it is because you enjoy that, right? And I do enjoy fitting the pieces of the puzzle. Sometimes you see it differently than another lender, another realtor could see it to help somebody out. But then at the very end of it, you're like, yes, we were able to figure this out and accomplish getting them into the home.
Yeah, it doesn't even perk my interest until I hear the word can't. Oh, it can't be. Oh, it can't be done. Okay, then I need to get involved because that's where I thrive.
Yeah.
Is when I figure those out. So tell us, Shelley, where's the mortgage industry today?
So much like the real estate side, right? We saw a lot of highs in the very beginning of 2022. Lows, I would say, last quarter of 2022.
So highs and lows in reference to
rate and production.
Okay, so
right?
loan applications.
Yes, yeah, and applications for both. I mean, I don't think it's any news on it. We are at below 30% on refinances, where a lot of our lenders' pipelines last year were 90%, which would be, that's huge, right? If you take out, I think even 25% today is lenders refinance or are refinances for lenders today.
Which is very low.
Very low.
Yeah, because for 3 or 4 years now, interest rates have been staying below that 5% interest rate, and so refis were super common.
Absolutely.
And people were doing those every time they would get down 1% from where they started, they would refi it again.
Yeah, I had a client. She went in 2019, purchased a home in the fives. 2020, right after COVID, we saw the first dip in interest rates. It got into like the fives or into the high fours. She refinanced, and then right out of 2021 got into the 2.75. All of them making sense for her to do because this home was going to be long term for her, and even the cost of the refinance. But she was with me through the purchase and 2 refinances in that 2.5 years.
2.5 years, yeah.
Yeah, but it made sense for her. She's loving it now. She's in that home today.
She's not getting out.
She's not leaving. Yeah, unless
somebody wanted to assume her loan. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the assumable seems to be a very trendy word, but I think the unknown about it is people think that that it's me that's going to allow them to assume a mortgage because they came to me to get the purchase. And that's not the case. When we do a loan, it gets sent off to a servicer, which is who they make their mortgage payment to. That is actually who has to qualify for that loan, has to qualify that new person to assume the loan. The great benefit in that, speaking to that, my buyer who refinanced, she got in a 2.75 interest rate. She wanted to sell that home today. A buyer could come in and assume that mortgage at the loan amount plus the interest rate. They qualify for that mortgage, and they'd be able to basically take over that payment. I mean, what's funny is when you teach these classes and you talk about, or even when you're going through the disclosure and you say, oh, this is an assumable loan, here's exactly when it's a benefit for you. It's never been the time being in the mortgage industry that I've ever had to say, yeah, this is a good time to actually take advantage of using that assumable clause. But this really would be a great opportunity for sellers today. If there's incentive to move, this could be one incentive for a buyer to want to purchase that home because they could take over that original interest rate. And the process is very similar to buying a home, but you don't go through an actual lender, like a frontline lender like myself. You would go through the owner's servicer to do that same process of assuming.
So servicer is whoever they pay their mortgage to.
Correct. Yeah.
It probably isn't the original lender.
Correct.
But it's the person that they pay their mortgage
exactly.
to.
Yeah. And you're going to go through the same process of title work. Once you're approved, you have title fees. Everything gets switched over much like a purchase. So fees are still the same. I don't think that you don't get away from the fee aspect of it when it comes to title and escrow. A little bit lower as far as lender fees. And then you still qualify, but you're not qualifying with me per se.
Right. You got to go through the servicer.
You do. Yep.
So Nicole, where do you think the housing market is today? Like what is your perspective of, I think one question I hear all the time is, should I buy a house today? Is it now a good time to buy?
Well, I think our market, like where we ended 2022, I think there was a lot of uncertainty as far as buyers and sellers both. And right as we turn the corner into 2023, I think there's a lot of changes that have happened. I think when we had the big rise in interest rates and kind of that freak out with buyers and sellers, and that the big dramatic change in market, I think there were a lot of people that thought we were going to have a crash, and it kind of freaked everybody out, and that kept buyers from wanting to purchase, in my opinion. And at that point, sellers started dropping. Sellers needed to sell, so they made pretty drastic price reductions in some cases, the ones that really did need to sell, or they took their houses off the market also. And so we had some just dramatic shifts, and some of that has eased out. So it made our last quarter pretty grim, in my opinion.
Sketchy, I call it.
Sketchy, yeah. So January 1st to me was kind of like a shining light. And I have felt a huge change in buyer confidence starting from the beginning of the year. And so I feel like the market, what I'm seeing is buyers coming back out. I feel like their confidence in rates have changed. You know, we ended the end of the year at like 6.5%. And like the forecast is in the sixes for the year. So I feel like nobody is concerned about huge rate increases. And so the buyers now recognize that this is going to be our rate for the year. And so they're coming back and recognizing that we're not going to have these crazy low rates. This is what it is. So I need a house, I'm going to buy a house. And sellers that have the really low rates don't necessarily want to sell, and so we're not going to get that inventory. So our inventory is not going to be super huge. I feel like we're just going to be in a balanced market. We're currently in a balanced market, and we're not going to have this excessive amount of inventory. We have buyers on the market, so I feel like we're just going to be in a nice, slow and steady 2023 is how I feel our market's going to be. So yeah, I feel like it's going to be a good year. Like very optimistic and not crazy. Like just a good like slow and steady. I feel like there's this tortoise and hare analogy that keeps popping in my mind, that we had this crazy hare, over the past couple of years, and this tortoise has just been like hanging in there, and we're kind of having a tortoise year of just, a nice steady pace for this year.
Good.
Yeah.
Brandon, what do you think? Where are you at? Where do you think it's going?
So I agree with you. I do think this is going to be a balanced market. This actually, to me, is a normal real estate market. We're turning back to normalization from, going out and making offers on homes where there's already 36 offers on the house. So those crazy historically low interest rates are what brought all of that. So
I think it's important to point out that, when there were 36 offers, half of those 36 people had never even seen the home.
Right.
Like there were no choices out there. They were just putting offers on anything that came available because they needed to buy a home, and they didn't get a choice.
Correct.
And so when we talk about it being a more balanced market, I think the biggest advantage that buyers have, they have a choice now. There's more than one home available to buy. They can look at multiple homes and pick the one that they fall in love with, date the rate as you call it, and then they can refi later. So sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, but buyers have a lot of options out there, which is great. As a realtor, that's what we usually do when we're representing a buyer. Is it's nice to go out there and actually get them closing costs if needed, rate buy downs, assumabilities. Now they have all these options available to them, where earlier in that same year, they didn't have those options. It was, oh, you want that house? Well, let's see what we can do to get it.
Yeah, let's let's roll the dice and see what kind of So no, it really was. I mean, you'd have to people paying over appraised value by $30,000 and $40,000 just cash out of pocket.
It was demoralizing.
Yeah.
Well, it was hard on us
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Right? I mean, we got people looking at us going, "Hey, we want to buy this house. This is the house that we love." And in my mind, I'm thinking, "I hear you, and I love it for you too, but you're not going to get it." Right? I mean, it was hard on us as well. So, I hope that we have much more balanced market for 2023.
Yeah.
Well, so let me ask this. From both the lending, maybe Shelley, you can start from the lending perspective. What indicators, like what do you watch that will tell you what the interest rate might do or where it might be going?
Well, the reason the rates went up last year is inflation, right? And that's been the big talk about the Fed fund rates going up last year, 6 times last year. And I don't think that that's going to stop. I just don't think it's going to be as quick as it had gone up last year. What we look at is inflation, because the interest rates will follow inflation. And right now everybody is saying, all indicators are saying inflation is going down. And if you saw November 10th, we actually saw that 0.5 point adjustment from the 7s to the 6.5s, which is how we ended up the year in the 6.5 range, because to be technical, the CPI and the PPI report came out, basically the consumer price index and our producer price index, indicating that inflation is in fact going down. So that's when we got our first rate decline, decrease into that 6.5%. So that is one thing that we look at is where inflation is at. Everybody's talking about us leading into a recession, right? Slowdown in the market, which is exactly what lower inflation is going to do, right? It's going to cause the market to go up, and we're now coming back down. Every time we've gone into a recession, rates have been low. Now, everybody has this thing thinking rate equates a low interest rate is 3%. As long as we can switch that paradigm of like our low interest rate is 5% or low interest rate is 4.75, I think everybody will understand that is still a low interest rate
Correct.
for all of us, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we will continue to see rates decline as long as inflation continues to go down, which I think that we are.
So through the year, you think we're going to go from the 6.5 down to, you want to make a prediction?
Yeah, I mean, as we sit today, we're in the 6s. I believe that we're going to get into the 5s. I truly do believe. I follow Barry Habib with Mortgageback or MBS Highway, and he is predicting May 10th, which is another date that the CPI or inflation report's going to come out, and we're going to see another big swing in or decrease in interest rates at that time. So, but I do feel like we're going to get into the 5s without having to pay discount points.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nicole,
Yes.
what do you think?
For rates?
No, what do you think for prices, housing prices? Are they going up? Are they going down? Are we going to hold them?
See, I feel like with prices, we're still going down for the next couple months, slightly. And then I feel like we're holding steady. I don't feel like we're completely out of it, because I feel like it's still trailing a little bit. So but at the same time, I don't feel like we're that it's for much longer. I feel like we're kind of stagnant as far as we're not going to have much appreciation through the year necessarily, but I think that's going to kind of depend on rates. I mean, you're the expert on rates, but it's from what I've read, I don't think that they're going to go down much. So I would think that that would mean our prices would be fairly stagnant, fairly flat. But I'm not, that would be my guess.
Would you advise a buyer to buy a house today?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I agree. I think if you can, you do. And I also feel like it has to work for your situation. If you need a house, you buy the house. And you don't, I see zero reason to wait. And the whole idea of timing the market, I don't agree with.
Yeah, I've done a few videos on timing the market, and yeah, it's
Real estate's not day trading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
It's
That's
not.
the best way to say it.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I tell my clients. It's not day trading. We're in this for the long haul. So pick something that you like in an appreciating market and move forward with
Right.
it.
Well,
It's
yeah,
for the
I think
long
that-
term.
I think that's a good point. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to buy a house and then resell it in a week
Mm-mm.
because it went up in value, right? I mean, this is somewhere where you're going to stay, you're going to live, you're going to, yeah, it's a long haul, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not day trading. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. So, where do you think prices are going to go? What's going to what indicators do you use to kind of watch what you think the market's doing?
You know, a couple different indicators I watch for our local market. I always watch U-Haul moving trucks. I don't know if anybody pays attention to those, but like one of the biggest states that emigrate to Nevada is California. Well, they have the largest amount of trucks leaving and not being returned to California. So to me,
So, let me just. Is that a statistic that you get somewhere? I
Yeah.
mean, you go to like U-Haul's webpage or something to get
yeah,
that?
it's yeah. You can actually they put it out every year. States that, you know, and actually I'll send it over to you too. But they put every state out there that, you know, people are moving from and people are moving to. Nevada, I want to say we're in the middle of the pile right now, but you know, on the right side. So
People are coming, not leaving.
correct.
Yeah.
So, but you know, our highest immigrating states, California being usually number one, seeing that people are flooding, and also on the commercial side, we're seeing a lot of people moving their businesses out here, which I think will create more jobs out here, which is in turn going to create, you know, more houses for sale and a better economic outlook for, you know, Las Vegas.
For the future.
Yeah. That's one of my indicators I look at. Obviously, I look at, you know, the inventory that we have, days on market. But I also pay attention to the mortgage side, you know, because we work hand in hand with our lenders. I believe the same thing, that the fives will become the new normal for everybody. You know, cue that from 2020. And I think that that'll end up, you know, creating stability in the market. So I think that was the biggest factor. We had such a huge rate increase over such a short period of time. Well, markets hate that. They
Yeah.
get scared. Doesn't matter what market is, real estate, stocks, whatever that market is. As soon as they see a big change and a big swing, everybody's like, whoa, hold the phone. Let's take a breath. What do we do from here?
Yeah.
And not to mention, it was also an election year. So we had a lot of other things, you know,
Politics and
our
life.
real estate usually, at least for me, you know, every time it's an election year, October gets a little quiet.
Absolutely, I agree. I think I don't think we take that into consideration very often. But our normal pattern in Vegas is we get very flat after school starts. Like the housing market flattens out after school starts, and it stays pretty flat through December. We get a little bump in December, goes back to pretty flat until about Valentine's Day.
Correct.
And then every year, if you go back and look between now and 2008, every year our biggest increase in sales is in March. March is the month where we peak every single year, and that's what we're doing. That's no different. I mean, everyone's afraid, oh, the market's crashing because of interest rates. No, it really isn't crashing. I mean, there is a correction, okay, but let me tell you what I think the biggest correction was in 2022, and that was when the interest rate changed so quickly, as you pointed out, Brandon. There were people who had their houses listed at $30,000 and $40,000 more than they should have sold for, and that was indicated by the appraisals that came back. Right, you get an appraisal that come back and it was $30,000 low. Well, that doesn't mean the house won't sell for $30,000 more. It just means that it didn't appraise for that, and buyers were paying out the cash. So the first decrease in pricing that we've seen, which everyone thought was so dramatic, was just sellers getting realistic with what homes could appraise for and what were really worth. But since that stopped, we're seeing a very minimal decrease in value. I mean, I think last month we only seen a less than $5,000 decrease in value in homes. And every single year, by the way, November to December, that's normal.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then, yeah, I would say it kind of always coincides with tax season, and everybody, once you start getting a little bit of tax money back, people start coming back to the market. They have their down payments and they're looking to buy. I think that too, with the stabilization of the market, that we'll end up seeing that uptick, but probably over the summertime. And I think that, as far as appreciation goes, I think that we're probably going to come out right over even this year, after having a little bit of decline at the end of last year. I think
So let me just say out loud that last year we had a substantial increase in appreciation from January to June, July, August, right? And then it started to come back down. And we ended the year flat. We started at 425 median sales price. We ended the year at 425 median sales price. But there was this big tick in the middle, which again, pretty normal for Las Vegas. We see that happen every year through the summer. And then when school starts, it starts to flatten out again. So yeah, I think we'll see the same thing this year. I just don't think the spike in June, July, and August will be as big.
yeah, I agree with you.
I think it'll be just a little smaller. So let me ask this, and you pointed this out earlier, but so maybe I can ask Nicole, rent or buy?
Rent or buy, always buy.
Well, the market's we're not sure what's going on. Would it be better for me to rent for a year than it would be for me just to buy now?
Well, I feel like, in my opinion, unless you're going to be someplace less than a year, it's always better to buy. There's always going to be more costs associated with renting, just because you never get anything back when you rent.
Yeah, as Brandon pointed out,
Yeah.
it's 100% interest.
100% interest.
Yeah, I mean, you're mad about 6% interest, 6.5% interest.
Yeah.
It just blows my
Yeah.
mind because everyone's freaking out that it's 6.5% interest, but I'm going to go rent for a year. Well, good, go pay 100% interest for the next year. Are you not mad about that?
Yeah.
And
That
maybe you
doesn't
get your
make any
security
sense.
deposit back.
But yeah, then
Yeah.
you get to fight about that in a month to see
Yeah.
if you end up with about half of it back, right? So
And
it's
sometimes
crazy.
people think, well, I can get out of my lease, but you've got the lease break fees, and to sell a house, you've got a 30-day escrow, and let's say it's 30 days on the market. You don't even have to be in town for that, So there is hassle involved with selling a house, but you don't have to deal with it. Your realtor can deal with it. So I just feel like there's really there's no major upside for getting rid of all of your money with rent.
paying somebody else's mortgage instead of
No.
your own. Shelley, rent or buy?
I say buy. If you can do it, buy.
Yeah, but you might not qualify, and then you need to put a plan in place to figure out what you need to do to make it so.
Okay.
And that would be Shelley helping you figure it out, because it might be just figuring out your plan.
Yes, no, I think that's a good point, is that no one ever wants to talk to a real estate agent or a mortgage broker until they know they can buy a house,
Right.
right? Because I don't know, maybe there's an embarrassment factor where they don't know whether they can, they don't know if they look, we're the ones that put you on the path.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can tell you what road to get on to get from where you are to where you need to be. Like, that's 90% of your job.
Mm-hmm.
Doing a loan isn't the hard part of your job. It's getting people from where they are today to where they can actually do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is ultimately what we do, right? Is just to get them onto the path. But some people are so afraid of what that path really could look like. I mean, I have first-time home buyers that are not necessarily afraid of the payment, but afraid of, okay, if I actually show you my credit, then what?
Yeah.
Or if I actually show
Are
you
you-
my
are-
pay stubs, and
Are you going to laugh at me and
Yeah.
tell all your friends about? Yeah, it's crazy to me that people think that way. But let me ask. I know one question you get all the time is, I can't buy a house unless I have 20% down.
Yeah,
Is that true?
that is not true. No, that is furthest from the truth. Is that how you say it? Farther from the truth? No, that is not true.
That's how you say
That's
that.
how you say it. Yeah, I think, down payments today, if you do FHA, FHA has always been 3.5%. That has never changed. I've been in the business 24 years. Since the day that I got into the business, always 3.5%. One change may be conventional financing, where it used to just be 5% no matter what. But if you're a first-time home buyer, you can actually put as little as 3% down. So the 20% stigma, I feel like that's like an old school mentality. I know for I hate to age my father-in-law, but that would be his thing. Like, I mean, in fact, when my husband went to buy a house.
Are you calling me old? Is
No,
that what you just said?
no,
That's what I heard. Sorry.
no. I didn't look at you. I was looking.
I'm probably your father-in-law's age though. So.
No. So when my husband went to buy his home, he was shocked that he could actually get in, buy a home, and to be very honest with you, I was his lender and I put him into an interest only loan at the time, which was even more of a, like, having to talk to my in-laws saying, I promise you this is going to be okay. Here's the plan on what we're doing.
So I have to ask, were they your in-laws at the time?
They were.
Okay.
Yes,
good.
they were.
That makes it a little bit
They
easier.
still are. Yes, they still are. But because they're so, like, for him, he paid off his house. He moved from New York. He used the cash to buy the house here, or used the cash and paid cash for his home here in Las Vegas. That's just their mindset. When you talk about your client who was trying to help their daughter purchase a home, that wasn't their plan. That has never been their plan for their kids. So even a step into home ownership was a big deal. And then to ask him, like, where'd you find the money to put 20% down? Because that's just the way that things were. But you do not have to have 20% down to buy a home.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go to Brandon for his final thoughts. But before I do that, I want to tell you about my client that I've been a little bit talking about here.
Yeah.
Found her a 2-bedroom, about 1,700 square foot townhouse with an attached 2-car garage. Got it at 4.9% interest, and she paid $1,500 out of pocket to get in. So them helping her get into the house was them pushing her along, saying, you need to do this because now is the time to do this. As you pointed out, Brandon, you get in when you can get in. And she, I'm getting a raise. Her pushback was, I'm getting a raise in May and I'm going to wait until May. And they said, well, look at your sister 2 years ago. We should have done this with you 2 years ago because your payment would be $1,200 a month instead of $2,000 a month, only because of a 2% interest change in interest. So you get in when you can get in. Mm-hmm. There are deals out there. You can still find some pretty fantastic deals, but not every single seller has to sell their house and sell it at a number that doesn't make sense, right? So you need someone that can help you go find what that deal looks like. You got to have somebody who can help you figure out what is your best choice. Like, what would work best for this? I don't know, I think she's 24. What's going to work best for her, which is different than me, right? Because I'm the 20% down guy, right? I'm not anymore, by the way. Now I'm like, I don't care what it takes to get in. If you can pay the payment, get in. Let's do this because I was always told your house is your piggy bank. Every dollar you put into your house is just going to be a big piggy bank. That changed a little bit in 2007, 2008, right? But really, it's still the truth. Mm-hmm. It's a piggy bank. Every dollar you put in there, you're going to get that back. And usually you get it back by about 6% a year. That's the normal appreciation rate for the country. Las Vegas typically outdoes that every year. We're closer to 10 or 11% appreciation. And we're still growing. Vegas is growing very rapidly. All the professional sports are coming here now. I think basketball's coming now. Is that right? I mean, did I hear there's a team looking at it?
That's the rumor. In baseball too, right?
Yeah, the A's are supposed to be coming now, right? So I think we'll have every professional sport here, which does nothing but cause us to grow. So I'm in agreement with everybody. I think 2023 is going to be the tortoise, as she pointed out, Nicole.
Steady.
It's just going to be very steady. I think that's great for buyers. I think buyers need to understand that this could be one of their last chances of buying a home at a very affordable price and a very affordable interest rate. Because I got to tell you, I don't see how prices are going to drop. Or it's not going to crash. It just isn't going to crash. I have one statistic I'll share about that. Back in the crash of 07 and 08, more than 80% of the country had zero equity in their home, meaning they had interest-only loans like you put your husband into. They weren't paying any principal. They didn't put any money. It was no money down. Like, if you could fog a mirror or if you had a pulse, you could get a loan, right? Well, 80% of the country had no equity. So it only made sense when the market started to crash, when everything started going, it only made sense to walk away. I wasn't losing anything anyway. I had just been paying rent for a while. That has changed 180 degrees. More than 80% of the country now has equity in their homes. So because the 80% of the people do have equity, they're not just going to walk away. So it can't really crash. I really don't think it can crash.
Right.
Sorry, Brandon.
Oh, no worries. I was going to double back off of that and just say that, talking about having your chance to get into the market is really important. So even bringing it back to stocks again, if there's not a stock split, you can't buy back in because now this stock costs $10,000 and I can't afford it. Well, it's the same thing in real estate. And if there's points where you can get into the market, like we're bringing up right now, and, there's going to be a point where you could be like the market I was just talking about in California, and it's generational living in a lot of homes because they can't afford to go out and purchase their own. So that very well could happen out here in our same market.
Yeah.
Even though it looks like we have a lot of land, we're landlocked by the government. So I do foresee seeing that in the future, that sooner or later you're going to get to that point where houses become out of reach for a lot of buyers. So I think, like just going off of what you said,
Yeah, it's true.
I'm
in.
literally experiencing that with my client right now. I mean, just 2 years ago, they could buy this for this much money, and we're just 2 years later, and she going from a single family to a townhouse, from a 3-bedroom to a 2-bedroom, from 2,200 square feet to 1,500 square. I mean, that's just over 2 years. I mean, yeah, they should have bought 2 houses 2 years ago instead of one and then one now. So yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I've asked everybody, but Brandon, let me ask you, buy or rent?
So I would say buy and then rent. What I mean by that is buy the house and then rent it out to somebody else and let them make your payments for you. So that piggy bank that we're talking about, let somebody else pay into that piggy bank for you, and there's your built-in retirement plan.
Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, there's a lot of people out there that don't mind paying 100% interest. So why not take advantage of that? Right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, I know we all laugh about that because we're in the industry, but the general public just doesn't equate for them. I mean, literally, if you're paying rent, it's 100% interest.
Yeah.
You're not getting any of that money back.
You're paying somebody else's investment.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and their retirement.
That's
Good
right.
point.
Yeah.
Last thoughts, Nicole.
Just that this year, I'm really excited. I'm optimistic about the fact that we've come through such a tumultuous last several years of so many highs and some kind of interesting lows, and that we're going to have a balanced year that isn't going to put anybody at such a disadvantage that we've seen over the past couple of years. So I feel like it's not going to be so exhausting for buyer and seller, and it's going to be a little bit more equitable for everybody. And I think that's going to just create a nice environment for everyone.
Shelley, any last thoughts?
Last thoughts. From timing the market, I would say, as an example for myself, I bought at the height of the market in 03, right? 04. I lived through the crash. Literally lived in the home. I could have walked away, but I raised my daughter in our home. We've just recently bought another home, timing of the market at the height of the market as well in 2021.
So you're good at that.
I'm good,
Yes. Let
yes.
me ask, do you live in that home yet?
Not yet. We're
Okay.
almost there. We're almost there, which that's a whole nother show. But I would say this, really understanding what the benefit in buying a home is to you and your family is what we're all here for, and helping you to make that decision. And understanding that it is something that you can, with the partnership of a realtor and a good lender, can get you to those steps, and understanding also the benefit in this wealth aspect, because I don't think people just see it as a living aspect. Okay, I'm going to have a place instead of renting, I'm going to own a home. But what Brandon's mentioning, buy, then rent that home, then buy another home and then rent that home, and then buy another home and then rent that home, and then retire. Like, that is possible. People are doing that.
You can let other people make your new mortgage payment.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so for me, I would say, final thoughts would be, I think the market for us is going to be good. I do see that this is one of the best buying opportunities for buyers today, with the seller contributions, with the even where the interest rates are at, the temporary or the permanent buy downs, whatever it is. You just have to work with the right people that will help you figure this out and get you on the right step.
Yeah, good. Last thoughts, Brandon?
My last thoughts would be get in the market as soon as you can. The best time to buy a house, if you're able to, buy it now. And if you're not, get with the right team, and your real estate and your lender can put together a plan for you to make you a home buyer, because honestly, that's the best asset that we typically have, as Americans anyways, is you have your home as your asset. So you want to send your kids to college down the road, you have an asset. If you want to, life changes, someone gets hurt, whatever it is in your life, you have an asset that you can come up with money to help you out in any particular,
Yeah, I think
problem that you're
I've
having.
heard people tell me that my home is the only thing I can leverage against life, because you never know what's going to happen in life. So I think probably our best advice today is that if you can get in, right? I think we can all agree there. So hey, I believe that 2023 is going to be a good year for buyers. If you need to sell, it's a great year to sell as well, because there are buyers out there that are going to buy, and we look forward to helping you. There's a lot of experience sitting here, and reach out if there's something we can do to help you. And don't forget to check out some of our other videos on other real estate ideas.